Welcome to Unleashing You. This podcast is your permission slip to create success your way. I'm your host, Amanda Riffey, a certified success coach and female business leader who has climbed her way up the corporate ladder. I've been through burnout and back and found the tools to bring fun and enjoyment to my career while creating powerful results and leading in a way that feels authentic to me. This show brings you conversations with women just like you who have created massive success for themselves and are doing it in their own way. We'll hear about their personal journeys of growing their career while still prioritizing the things they love most. If you are ready to be challenged and encouraged to reach your next level, then buckle up, sister, because the road to dreamy success begins here. Let's dive in. Welcome back to Unleashing You. Today, I am joined again by Ashley Johnson, my business manager, and we had been chatting a little while ago about just the different questions that I get asked. And we said, you know what, like we've never done a Q&A series or episode on the podcast. So those of you who are connected to me on social or one-on-one clients have submitted questions ahead of time, and we're just going to go through and answer them and make this kind of a discussion on this episode. So Ashley, what do you think?
This is going to be so much fun because we have such good questions that were submitted, whether it be through your Instagram or through how they submitted them. Such good questions. I'm super excited to hear the answers to all of them.
Yes. Okay. So Ashley is going to represent you all, and she is going to ask the questions for me. And then, we're just going to make this an open conversation and would always, always, always love feedback. We're going to record 2 more of these episodes for you as well. We've kind of grouped the questions into topics. So today we're going to talk about the questions that you all have around like career, work-life balance. There was a lot of questions submitted that had kind of that tone. So we're going to focus on that for today's episode.
Yeah, I think it's a kind of a good place to start. And like you said, we're going to divide these up over the next couple of episodes, but I think we started at a good place, and really people asking questions kind of related to that career, that work-life balance. That seemed to be a heavy theme that came through, people really trying to understand how to get that work-life balance if they don't have it. So let's just start off with our first question. Okay, here we go. How do you know when you're ready for a career change? I'm good at my job. I don't hate it, but feeling less challenged and less motivated. The corporate world has changed a lot in recent years, and I feel like there's something more out there, but giving up that safety net, is that really an option? Any advice on getting out of my comfort zone? It's a lot of pieces to that one, but I think you're kind of seeing the...
Yes. Oh my gosh. These are so good already. These are so good. Okay. So the biggest thing that I would just love to say first is, number one, I don't know anyone who has ever felt ready to do the next thing. So I would just go ahead and get that piece out of your brain ahead of time. If that's what you're thinking of, like, okay, I'll just know because I'll feel super ready and I'll be ready to, take the leap or do the thing. And I have found that I never, ever feel ready for the next thing. But, in that same turn, it's also just the fact that you have that idea and that feeling that you're meant for more is a really big sign. So I can share just a little bit about how I did my transition from my corporate track to coaching, essentially. And the biggest thing that I did was I don't even want to call them baby steps, because in the moment they feel like very big steps, but it's just taking the next right step. So when I found coaching, it felt scary enough to be like, okay, maybe I could be a coach. And I research programs and talked to the advisors, right? And you really researched, and then went to my husband and said, hey, I don't know where this is going to go. It might go nowhere, but I just feel like coaching is the next right step. And I really want to invest in getting certified as a coach. And here's my plan to pay for it. And here's all the things. And so just that first step felt so scary for me in the moment. But it wasn't like I was like throwing away everything I had done up until that point. It was just, okay, let me invest in getting certified. That's my next step. Then I put myself out there to get my first round of practice clients while I was getting certified. And that felt scary, but it was just the next right step. Then I proposed at work to start to work in leadership coaching into my job. So I was still doing the job that they hired me to do, but I was also taking some of those skills that I had learned from outside and incorporating that to bring added value. And in bringing that added value, it's also creating my own personal brand. And I know, Ashley, that's something you and I have talked a lot about recently, and something I talk about with my clients too, is when you have your sights set on something, everything you talk about, everything you're doing, everything you're showing on LinkedIn or Instagram should all really mirror that. Because, like I started speaking up in meetings and incorporating coaching into solutions. I started sharing things that I was doing behind the scenes on my social channels. So all of those things were working me up to the next scary step or the next big step. So I don't think you have to just cut the safety net right away, but there are ways to work up to that.
Do you typically see, Amanda, and this just kind of made me think while we were going through this question, like, do people think sometimes and make the mistake of thinking that they have to have the plan from start to finish lined up and mapped out and what it's going to look like 10 years from now versus, like you were saying, baby steps? Like, it is a huge leap of faith, but if you break it down into bite-sized pieces, it seems a little more manageable.
Yes, a lot of times we let that plan, or what we would consider a lack of plan, stop us. And it might be because we don't have the clarity on it yet. So we feel like, okay, well, I can't take any action because I don't have the clarity. Or we might also think, oh, that just feels way overwhelming, way too far away. And so it's almost like that crippling fear of like, now I can't take any action at all because that just seems so far away. And so I always say, like, just focus on what's the next right step. The next right step is going to appear. It's going to feel scary. But once you do that thing, it no longer feels scary and you're at that next level.
Excellent advice. I think that question, or a version of that question, gets asked a lot. And I think people just don't necessarily know where to start or how far they have to go in order to know when it's time. So I like that. Okay, so here's the next one. I often feel overwhelmed and anxious about my work schedule and workload, but more so than ever, it's also creeping into my personal life. I'm feeling overwhelmed by things that I previously really enjoyed. Kids' homework, sports, shuttling kids to and from appointments and games, even laundry and making dinner. Is that something you can help me with? I don't want to lose the fun side of me.
Oh, number one, like my heart for this person.
And I think everybody can relate to that. Like, I mean, I don't have kids and I get that feeling sometimes of just overwhelmedness just from life in general. So I can't imagine even the working moms out there that deal with this kind of stuff in this specific stress.
Yep. So the biggest thing, and I'm actually writing a chapter in my book on this exact topic. So this is right on. What I would say here is 9 times out of 10, when we're feeling this way, it's because you are feeling misaligned with your values. So now that sacrifice that maybe felt okay before now feels like it's too much because it's in direct conflict with the things that you care about the most. So I always talk about, and I'm sharing this story in my book as well, of, when I was early in my career, I worked at a client that we had really heavy peak periods. And so we would have to, work 7 days a week. We'd have to work overnights. We'd have to work all really crazy hours. But it was a trade-off because that was only certain times of the year. And then the other months of the year, it was like really, really easy. So it was definitely like feast or famine. And that worked for me for the longest time. And then I became a mom. And then suddenly that 1 month of that peak period didn't feel worth it to me anymore, because anyone who's had a baby knows like babies change a lot in a month. So it was what felt fine before, that level of sacrifice felt okay, suddenly didn't feel okay for me anymore. And so I feel like that might be where this person is, where something in her job or her career, or maybe something is even changed in her personal life that is making this now feel like it's too much. So what I would say for her is to really get clear on what's most important to you in your life, and then begin to set boundaries in those areas so that you can get your time and your energy back, especially in a corporate environment. And to be honest with you, even when you own your own business, the to-do list is never ending. Companies are going to take as much as we will give. They're going to continue to take. And even again, if we own our own business, there's always something more we can be doing. So we can just continue to give and give and give. And so setting some of those boundaries, whether they are, boundaries that we have had a conversation about, or whether they're silent boundaries, you're going to have to take control of that situation a little bit more. But I would first get really clear on what's feeling so misaligned so that you set those boundaries in the right place.
That's awesome advice. And I think it's also okay for us to realize that those boundaries and those values and what's important this season might not be the same thing that's important next season. And just kind of thinking about, as like you were saying, babies are one thing, and at different points in your career, you're at a different spot, and it's kind of going to be probably just changing and evolving as you continue.
Yep, absolutely.
I feel like I'm getting smarter just listening to you here.
You're so funny.
Question number 3. I have a job I love. I want to continue to do it well and grow as a manager. I want to make sure I give my team the best version of myself so that they can do the same in return. Could partnering with a coach help me with this?
Ooh, yes. The answer is yes. End of story. Done. Yes, absolutely. And I mean, that is a lot of what I work on with my clients. Again, whether you own your own business or you're a leader within an organization, working on yourself has a direct correlation to how you show up as a leader. Period. End of story. It just does. And I think when you work with a coach, you get to bring out the best version of yourself. You're giving yourself that safe space, that protected time where you can reflect, where you can process, where you can learn and take action. And that is a lot of times the space that we don't give ourselves on a day-to-day basis. And I know this, I will say all of the leaders that I work with one-on-one, that is one of their biggest takeaways from a coaching experience, is just the time to slow down and the time to process and reflect and strategize and, think about people development, think about their business results, all of those things. And so when you do that, you are automatically going to show up as a better leader for your team, number one. And then you also then get to, so many of my clients who are leaders will be like, hey, can I use this tool with my team? Or, and then they start to mirror the things that we talk about in our coaching sessions as they're developing the people on their team. So yes, it's just the perfect way to not only invest in yourself, but also invest in yourself as a leader, to be honest.
I love the way this person worded this. And it said, I have a job. I love that job. I want to continue to do it well and grow as a manager. They didn't mention anything necessarily about, I am trying to climb the corporate ladder and be the next CEO. They literally said, I have this job that I really like, and I want to be better at what it is that I'm doing right now. And it was just about improving themselves where they are now, not necessarily like even the next level yet.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you pointed that out, because you're right. I talk a lot about big dreams. I talk a lot about, being in a transition time, or you've got this big goal. And sometimes our goal is to get better at where we are. Sometimes our goal is to find more balance and not necessarily move up to the next role. And so, yeah, I think depending on just what you want to get out of that experience, as long as you are willing to do the inner reflection, the work that's required, you can honestly make anything happen.
Yeah, I think it's just kind of cool to hear somebody that's happy where they are, right? Not
Yes.
necessarily like to benefit from coaching, you don't have to be trying to always.
Get out of something else.
Yeah, like I'm not trying to get out of this and into something else. It's okay to just want to better yourself and be better at the job you're already doing.
Yep, for sure.
Okay, next question. I have benefited so much from one-on-one coaching with you. So this comes from a
Aw.
current coaching client. I have colleagues that would too, but I'm not sure how to suggest it to them without saying you need help. Any suggestions or ways that they could get a sample of what you offer? I love this because sometimes when you think about coaching, you think about coaching, therapy, it all kind of ends up in the same bucket together. Like,
Yep.
it'd be like telling somebody they need therapy. I don't know how you would do that. So I think we're kind of lumping it all together to be like, hey, you need help with this. I've got someone that can help you. But how would you suggest they do that?
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. Okay. So the shortest answer I have, and I will elaborate, is coaching is for top performers. So there should not be anything offensive about suggesting a coach to someone, because I will speak for myself. And I know for many, not every coach is created equal, but for many coaches that I would align myself with, me and others, we only work with people who want to grow into their next level, just like we were talking about before. Only the people who are willing to do the work, only the people who are ready to take action to become that next version of themselves. Like, I select my clients very carefully. And the reason I do that is, honestly, it's a waste of my time to work with somebody who does not want to be there, who's not willing to put in the work, who isn't going to show up, I'm really pouring so much of myself into those sessions or into the experiences that we put together. And so if somebody's not in it, they're not there, they're not wanting to do it, that's a waste of my time. And honestly, it's a waste of their time too. So it only makes sense to be very selective, both when you are picking a coach and then also from my perspective, when I'm working with clients. Again, I only work with the people who want to grow. So I feel like, to me, it shouldn't be offensive, right, to anyone to suggest that.
Yeah, I totally agree. I feel like it would almost be flattering for someone to say,
Yeah.
hey, I did this really awesome coaching program. I think you would love it.
Yes.
I think I would like to make sure you have an opportunity to experience what I did because I got so much from this. I want you to have that same experience. I think it's awesome.
Yes, for sure. And then I did hear the other part of the question, so I'll just do a quick plug because they said other ways that they could sample what you offer. So yes, and there's plenty of ways that they can do that. Of course, listening to the podcast is a great one. But if they really want to get in a personal coaching experience, I do offer a 30-minute private coaching session for free. So that is there, there's lots of free things I've got out there, whether it's a masterclass, the podcast, all those types of things. But if they really want to experience that for themselves, then I would suggest booking that free 30-minute call.
This is where if we were in front of a live audience, they would all be clapping right now because people love free things. And you just said the magic word, free 30-minute session. I mean, that's huge. 30 minutes. I mean, I've been part of your 30-minute sessions before, and I just know you don't think that's a lot of time, but you can actually accomplish a whole lot in 30 minutes.
Yes, you really can. Like the aha moments that will click for people, or just the new idea or the new perspective. Like, I will say life-changing. Like, I really think that they can be life-changing in 30 minutes.
Yeah. Well, I just think back even to the retreat when you had 30-minute sessions, those one-on-one sessions with everybody. Like, somebody would come in from a session or come back from being outside with you from that session and be like, oh my gosh, like I have so much clarity. It was just funny to see those kind of big transformations happen in that little amount of time.
Yes. I always say, and I don't know why I always pick Friends, maybe because it's my favorite show, but I'm like, you could like watch an episode of Friends, or you could potentially change your life in 30 minutes. Like, I'm still going to watch Friends too, but let me carve out one of those 30 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. You can actually get a lot done in 30 minutes if you put your mind to it and have somebody that's coaching you through that 30-minute session. So that's awesome. I love that. So guys, if you have someone that you want to refer, let Amanda know so she can have that 30-minute free session with them.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have made it to our last question, and it's funny because it kind of loops back around to the first one. So it's making the leap. What should I have in place before leaping from a corporate job to becoming that entrepreneur that I've dreamed of? I know there's a lot, but what are the big things not to overlook?
Yes, you're right. It's kind of like a bookend for the first question. So I will say, just take the first step. Take the first step. You do not, to your point earlier, Ashley, you do not have to have it all figured out. If you're not sure what that first step is, actually that 30-minute call we were just talking about could be the first step of just getting that clarity. But you don't have to have it all figured out. Again, so many times we think we do, and it's just not true, because number one, you're going to grow so much in that journey if that's just the journey you decide to go on. That was one of the things I did not realize I was signing up for. And maybe this is one of my tips, is be ready for that personal growth journey. Because I naively was not thinking I was like, okay, tell me the strategy. How do I grow a business? What things do I need to have in place? And yes, the strategy is important, but the strategy is actually the much easier part. I did not realize all of the limiting beliefs, all of the things that were going to come just rushing to the surface the minute I said, I want to be an entrepreneur. So that's maybe something to be ready for and be prepared for, is that it's not going to be all about the strategy. You are going to have to really up level in such a beautiful way. Like I would not trade it for the world, because I have grown more as a human in these last 2 years than I ever have, while also growing a business that I absolutely love. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And, it's going to take time. I am just 2 years in, and I am just now starting to find some consistency and flow, because you're going to try a lot of things, and some things are going to work and some things aren't, and, all of that stuff. So just be willing to go on that personal growth journey, be willing to put yourself out there and be seen, because sometimes that is the hardest part. But I will say, one of the books that I would recommend for anybody who's thinking about that, especially if you are in a corporate job now and thinking about starting your own business, is 2 Week Notice by Amy Porterfield. It is a perfect book for you if you are in that part of your journey, because it's literally geared towards that exact audience of, hey, I'm in a corporate role. I'd love to start my own business. How the heck do I do it? So 2 Week Notice by Amy Porterfield is a great book.
And we could probably find that on Amazon or anywhere, in a bookstore, anywhere. So that's awesome. I think it's probably safe to say that we will always talk ourselves out of things faster than we'll talk ourselves into things. So be patient with yourself. But like you said, it's just those baby steps. And even if that baby step is saying, I'm going to commit to that 30-minute free coaching session that Amanda offered, and I'm just going to talk, and I'm going to figure out where my head is.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. And then, just make sure that you're surrounding yourself with people who are going to support that dream. And I hate to say it, but not everyone in your world is going to get it. And not everyone in your world is going to be on board yet. They might be on board when they start to see the results from what you're doing. But think about it as, and I've heard this analogy, I can't even quote the person because I've heard this so many different times, so I don't know exactly where this kind of analogy came from. But when you think about planting something, number one, the flowers are the last thing, or the fruit is the very last thing to grow on that plant or that tree or that flower. But also when you plant it, you can't keep digging it up to check and see if it's growing, right? Like it's not going to grow if you keep doing that. And so when you're planting that seed, it's super fragile. it's super fragile. And so is your dream. So make sure that you are only sharing that part with the people who you know are going to be there to support you, because there's going to be days where you doubt yourself, that you want to dig up that seed and see if it's growing. But you have to lean on your community, lean on your network, lean on your squad, whoever that is, of those people who are going to support you on those days where you feel a little bit more unsure. I know by the time this airs, this will have been a little bit from when I posted this on Instagram, but just last week, I was feeling really doubtful around just finances and, all of those types of things, because while my revenue is getting consistent in my business, revenue doesn't always equal profit necessarily. And it definitely doesn't always equal the corporate paycheck that I used to have. So there are days where, even though I feel so lit up by the work that I'm doing, it can feel really heavy because I still have bills to pay. I still have things I'm investing in, all of that kind of stuff. And when I posted that in a very vulnerable share, it was just a huge aha moment for me that I really have surrounded myself with the right people, because I got so many messages, texts, voice notes, all of the things of, number one, saying, hey, I can relate to that too if I'm an entrepreneur. Or just those words of encouragement of like, hey, you are making such an impact. Don't quit. Keep going. And those are the things you're going to need when you are making that really scary step into the unknown.
I love that. I love that whole planting the seed and not digging the seed back up, and having your community and your, like you said, just your squad, and like, who are those people, and taking a look around you and saying, like, I mean, if you're questioning somebody that's questioning you, like, maybe it's time to move on from that relationship or that friendship. And that would take us to a whole nother level of a podcast.
Yes.
But I think that's a really good way of thinking about it, and thinking, do you have the right people? Do you have, are you surrounded by the right people with the right values that align with what it is you want to do? That's huge.
And, and sometimes it means relationships can't come with you to that next level. And sometimes it just means, you know what, I'm just not ready to share it with that person. Like, we can still talk about all the things we talked about before, but like, this thing, I'm just going to keep this a little closer to my chest for now until I feel more confident.
And that's kind of the baby steps, right? Like, have 30 minutes with a coach, schedule 30 minutes with Amanda, and figure out, like, is this something that you could see yourself being passionate about to talk to other people, really putting out there.
Yeah.
I always say, just run things past Amanda. Go to Amanda, ask her if she thinks it makes sense.
I love it. You are my biggest cheerleader.
I think this was so fun. I love that people really took some time and submitted some really good questions.
These blew me away with the quality of these questions.
I mean, way to go, guys. If you submitted a question, thank you. And keep doing it, because we got a couple more episodes. So yeah, I want people to keep submitting questions. So you can probably tell them the best way to do that if they do have a question that comes up before this one will be out before we've recorded the third one, I would guess. So there's probably an opportunity that they could still submit their questions.
Yep. I think you are right in the timing of that. So if you're listening to this now and you're like, oh crap, I do have a question, it could be around anything. So this one, again, we really kind of grouped into the work-life balance, career types of questions. But if you have a question around anything that you'd love to have covered on the podcast, you can just send me a DM on Instagram. Is probably the quickest, easiest way to do that. So again, on Instagram, it's at @AmandaRiffy_coaching. Just say, hey, I've got a question for the podcast. Submit your question, and we will do our best to cover all of the ones that we get.
I mean, this is even something you could probably add to like even if you did an Instagram live or something where you had questions or anything like that, that would be this is just a really cool way for us to be able to interact with people that have honest to goodness questions that they need answers to. And they're really good questions that really make us kind of think about our own stuff that we've got going on.
Yep, for sure. And don't think I didn't notice you're just creating a new channel for us. Talking about, oh, we should just do this on Instagram Live on a regular basis. Sneaky. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. We hope you've enjoyed it. Definitely give us feedback on if this is something you'd like to see more of. Well, we're going to do 2 more, so I hope you want to see more of this. And if you have any questions, just send me a DM on Instagram at @AmandaRiffy_coaching, and we'll see you on the next episode. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you'd like to continue this conversation, connect with me on Instagram and say hello. You can find me at AmandaRiffy_coaching. In the meantime, if you know you are ready to step into the next incredible version of you and want to completely accelerate your personal and professional growth, let's work together. I offer one-on-one private coaching as well as workshops and in-person events. There's really something for everyone. To learn more, visit my website at acrprofessionalcoaching.com or send me a DM on Instagram and start a conversation. And don't worry, I truly want all of us to succeed. So I promise I will never steer you wrong. Let's create a career and life you love. Chat with you again soon.